Well, folks, I'm doing this little 10 question video about my process and how I go about creating the whole painting thingamajig. And it's basically just a thank you for the 5,000 subscribers. 5,000 subscribers, that's not so bad at all, seriously. Not. And it is just to say thanks for all watching and contributing and commenting. It all really helps. All that subscribe and stuff, it really does help. So again, thank you very much, and well, you can go ahead and listen to all these, me waffling on about all these 10 questions that people so desperately want to know. Right, okay, I'll see you at the end of the video. I'll start with this one. It's kind of like a general question, or at least I've made the question a wee bit more succinct. And it is, what is your best tip? What's the best way you think you can learn? What's the best? Well, for me, it's getting over the fear of failure or wasting products. I would suggest that you get the cheapest way that you can do this thing. Just get the cheapest paints, the cheapest canvases, the cheapest boards, everything. Something that you're willing to paint over and paint over and paint over. And just keep doing it. Just stop being afraid of getting it wrong. Stop being afraid of making your tree the wrong size, because all you have to do is wipe it out and paint it back in again. I find that that's probably your biggest leap in learning, is once you pass that stage, then you start to realize, oh, there really is no mistake that can't be fixed. Because at the end of the day, if you don't like the painting, you just wipe the whole thing off. Here's another wee question, and it's, what do you use? Is it canvas or paper or board? I used to use board, but not so much anymore. I use canvas. What you see up there is a extra fine cotton canvas, and it's just pinned to corkboard, and the corkboard is covered in a black cloth, and that's just purely for videoing purposes. If I wasn't videoing, I wouldn't cover it in black cloth. So yeah, that's what I use. Canvas, extra fine cotton canvas. Now, what colors do I use? Well, I have a very limited palette. I use roughly around about 6, maybe 7 colors. That doesn't include white and black. They are transparent, oxide red, raw umber, cadmium yellow medium, cadmium red medium, phthalo green, ultramarine blue, and cerulean blue. And for these, they give me all the colors I could want. It's a million permutations that I can get. I can mix any color that is in nature, and that just takes practice. But if I ever really need a real vibrant color, like a neon color, which is very rare for me, I would just go and buy a small tube of that color. Now, the next question would be, what brushes do I use? I use cheap brushes, folks. For the most part. Occasionally I would use expensive brushes for more details, and if I'm going to do a portrait painting. The reason I use the cheap brushes is I can be more rough with them. I can push them in and create different textures and shapes with them. I find that if I use expensive brushes to do the same job, I'm more cautious with them. I don't want to destroy the expensive brush. So that's the cheap brushes that I use, and the more expensive ones are normally Rosemary & Co. Some like Series 376, I think they are. What paints do I use? I use Daler Rowney paints for the underpainting, and Winsor & Newton. Some Rembrandt and Michael Harding for the upper layers, the more detailed layers. If I'm going to put on a nice glaze, I'd use maybe the oxide reds, the transparent ones. That I think they're Michael Harding. No, they're Rembrandts. So yeah, that's for glazing. Cheap paintings for underpainting, because most of it's getting covered up, and slightly more expensive ones for the details and the top painting. Now, do I use reference photos? Yes, I do. I use many reference photos. I sit and scour through the internet. I go through Google, Pixel, Shutterstock, Midjourney, anything that pops up, and then I find what I'm in the mood for that day and what I like the look of, and then I'll whittle that down to maybe 5, 6, 7 paintings, and then I work from those. I only work directly from a reference photo if it's for a commission for someone. And the reason I don't post reference photos is because they're nothing like the finished product. And I think it actually might be detrimental for the learner or the the viewer to see those, because I'm just taking a house from this, a tree from that, a sun from over here, a river from here. So I think most of it you could say is from my imagination, but it is informed with reference photos. What mediums do I use? Oh, well, I only use two. And I begin the painting with the white spirits or mineral spirits, whichever term you want to use for them. And the reason I use that is it really thins the paint out and dries really, really quickly on the top. And that allows me to come in with a next layer of painting very quickly. And if I'm using a white, I will use liquid, because white can take a long time to dry. So I use the liquid if I have a white in any color. If I'm mixing a green and I want to knock the saturation out of it and put a little bit of white in it, I will add some liquid to help with the drying times. So it is just white spirits and liquid is the only mediums I use. How often do I paint? It's not very often, just a few hours a week. It adds up. It's like 15 minutes here, go in and sit down, do another 20 minutes, go in and sit down. I tried Alla Prima a while ago and it really wasn't for me. And Alla Prima, you're almost compelled to do it in the one sitting, which is basically what Alla Prima means. That's wet on wet, doing it in one sitting. I don't want to be painting for that long. So I do a bit, let it dry, do another bit, and so on. And that's basically how it all adds up to maybe a 4 or 5 hour painting. Can I paint like you using acrylics? Yes, you can. Using acrylic paints you can, but I would use a retarder, some sort of medium that slows the process down and allows for more blending time. Now, one of the best retarders is slowing mediums is a vegetable glycerine. It's actually really quite good. You just add a little bit to it and it'll give you an extra 10 or 15 minutes blending times with acrylics. I used to do it years ago with acrylics, but yeah, I still prefer the oils. I prefer the saturation of the oils. And how do you produce those lovely greens in your landscape? Well, folks, greens are a tricky colour. And I suppose this harks back to the first question, is don't be afraid to get it wrong. Just do it on any surface you can afford to paint on over and over and over again. But you will get it. You will. With a small amount of practice, you will see them coming around. Just mix them with reds to grey them out. Some raw umbers and blues. Depending on what you're going for. If it's a warm evening, you might actually want a cool ground. If it's a warm sky, if it's a cool sky, you can have a warm ground, just to create contrast and interest. Or you could just watch my videos and continue to look at the palette and watch the greens that I mix, and that's how you could create some nice cools and warm greens. Okay. Well, folks, now that that's done, now that I have imparted my vast vaults of wisdom, I can settle back and know that I have done my bit. Or maybe not. I'll put out a few more videos soon enough. Right, so I just want to thank you again at the end of this for the 5,000 subscribers. Here's to another 5,000 now. I'll see you all again soon enough. And of course, bye for now.